Well, hello, everybody. This is lovely to see all these faces. Thank goodness, we thought no one was going to show up. Hi. Okay, I think there's a few more people joining us, so we'll just kind of keep letting people in, and we will get started. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for our very first virtual lounge with Departures Travel.
Yay.
And so cheers, everybody.
Oh. Oh, good.
Perfect. So just a couple of things to tell you. On the, if you look at the top right of your screen, you have a choice of speaker view or gallery view. If you choose gallery view, it's a little more fun because you'll see all the boxes and everybody. Otherwise, you just see either my big face or Cathy's or whatever. So it's kind of nice to have everybody all mixed up instead of just one of us. If you're on a mobile device, then you just swipe left and you'll get the same gallery view, although I think you only get to see 4 people if you do that. But there you go with that. Hi, Bruce. So we're going to leave everybody's speakers on mute just because otherwise we sometimes pick up background noise. So it just makes it a little bit better if we do that. And if you have a headset, I'm wearing a headset. If you've got one, it really helps you so you don't get a whole bunch of background noise as well. But if you don't, it's okay. But it does really help you for just making it sound a little bit nicer for you. So, okay, we'll just get started. I'm Cathy Scott. I am the owner of Departures Travel in Victoria and co-owner of Departures Travel in Sydney, along with Cathy Larson, who's also on the call here. And what I would say to you is I've been in the business for about 20 years, and so I've seen quite a few things coming and going. And I was in travel school when 9/11 hit. So I've seen a lot of interesting things, and what I do know about it all is this too shall pass. We'll get through this, and onward and upward it goes. Our industry is really resilient. We're incredibly resilient. So the nice thing about that is that we can change and shift on a dime, and so we will do that moving forward. And Cathy Larson, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been in the travel and tourism business for about 35 years, mostly hotels, and I've been in the travel business for the last 10 years. So I've seen a lot in the past 35 years and seen how resilient tourism and travel really is. I mean, who remembers when Y2K, it was going to be the end of the world, everything was going to crash, every computer, everything was going to come to a standstill. So we survived that. 9/11, nobody was going to fly again, and look at us. So we're really, really hopeful. We're all doing our thing by staying inside and closing up the offices and getting back to travel really, really soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so a little bit about why we started Departures Lounge. Departures Lounge, actually, the concept was something I had thought about quite a few years ago, and it was really meant to be more of a going into bars or restaurants or other little areas of the city and just sort of popping up and having a bit of a pop-up travel shop, if you will. So a place that people could get together and just talk about all things travel. Not really sales related, just kind of a fun place to mix and mingle and talk about travel things. And so with what's just happened with COVID and us all being not able to go out, Cathy and I were talking the other day and we just said, why don't we do it virtually? And so we just decided to do it. So here we are. So thank you for joining us. And it's really meant to be, it's just a virtual meeting place where we can talk about all things travel and keep us excited about travel moving forward and dream a little bit, because right now that's what we can do. And dreaming is always a good thing. So yesterday was actually the 35th anniversary of Departures Travel in Oak Bay. And I bought it 4 years ago. So that's a pretty big milestone. Very proud of the fact that Departures is the only remaining independent travel agency in Victoria. So the only one that isn't owned by a large national consortium or a chain. And it's the oldest travel agency as well. So we've got kind of double status going on there. And it was also yesterday, the second anniversary of Cathy and I signing our lease in Sydney at there. So it's been a bit of a wild ride, but never a dull moment. We always say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So, but what I would say is I wouldn't pass it up for a moment. I've had so much fun. And I think one of my biggest joys has been traveling with so many of the women that I travel with. And there's a few of you on the call today, so thank you for joining us. And we are all scheduled, or many of us are scheduled, to head out to do a trip in this fall to Galapagos and Machu Picchu. So we're crossing our fingers and hoping that's going to happen still. But if not, there's another year and we can continue dreaming about that. So our feature speaker, or our guest tonight, is just an incredible woman. Her name is Cathy Denroche, and Cathy has actually been in the industry for about 44 years, I think, Cathy, right?
Yeah, I sure have.
And you're getting the triple Cathys here. What I will tell you about Cathys is we all talk a lot. So we're really trying not to talk over one another here. But Cathy Denroche she has been as a sales director for luxury cruise lines, 4 different ones over the course of her life. And she has changed and transformed amazingly in this industry. And when I first came into the industry, she was one of the first people that I really, truly met and admired just instantly. It was a person I wanted to pattern myself after. And honestly, Cathy, you're a force to be reckoned with. It's just a privilege to work with you. So she brings amazing insight in this industry, and she's going to entertain you with her witty sense of humor and some pretty amazing stories that she has as well. So Cathy Larson, you were going to ask her some questions.
I am. So, Kath, I know we heard of all this news when we were in the conference in Vancouver, beginning of March, and it was so lovely to have such a strong community of tourism and travel people, and you really are an icon in our business, a young icon, and you blew the house down with your speech that you gave and standing ovation. It was just so amazing.
Oh, thank
you.
So
yeah, and we just wanted to have you on and to tell us what you're seeing out there now, and to give us some insight as to what's happening with cruising and travel.
Well, thank you. And I was going to say, it's hard to get 3 Cathys with C's on them as well. But I just want to say, I've done many Zoom meetings over the past 2 weeks, everybody, and it is so wonderful to see all your faces. It's such a great connection to us humans sitting isolated in our homes. But I think it's a really great question, Kath, and what am I seeing? And I'd kind of like to address it as going back to what I've seen over the last 44 years. One of the things I would like to tell you is when I started at P&O and Princess 44 years ago, it was with the Love Boat, we had a cholera breakout on one of the P&O ships in Vancouver Harbor. We had 2 ships docked in the port of Vancouver, and no one could get off the ship for like 3 weeks. It was quite amazing. But, one of the things that I noticed more than anything is that we have been through so many changes. And what I'd like to do is just tell you just a brief, kind of overview of what the travel business really means and who we are as an industry. And that is that, the only industry that surpasses the travel industry right now is the manufacturing sector. We surpass in the travel industry, we far surpass the financial, the health, the technology sectors. And it means that we're kind of the second biggest industry in the world. We employ 20% of the population of the world in the travel business. And we also make up for almost 10% of the world's GDP. So it's a huge number when you look at it. And it's one thing that people will always travel. This is an industry, everybody, as you well know, that has been hit by every single crisis, whether it's the war, whether it's a volcano, whether it's Zika, whether it's SARS, whether it's, cholera, whether it's been, now the COVID-19, but it's one of the industries that is the very first to rebound always. And I think it's one of the most resilient businesses. And the reason I know that is because it is it's an industry where people will always travel. It is a need that people will always be curious enough to travel. And we are getting a built up kind of pent up feeling already. And yet people have only really been in their homes for the last 2.5 to 3 weeks. But I want to say that while this is a really deep cut, this one is the biggest we've ever seen. This is also something that will pass. And I do believe no matter when, it could be a month from now, it could be 3 months from now, we'll have such a pent up demand for travel, people will never stop. And the pendulum will always swing back and forth. And so this is just one of many setbacks the industry's had. And it has been crippled. I was saying to one of my advisors the other day, who was feeling very unsure, just kind of going, wow, what's really going on? I said, you know, it's okay not to be okay right now. But it is going to be okay. And that's the real lesson. That's the real thing that I'm trying to keep in the moment and kind of go, this is a blip in our history. And this is something we'll talk about for years and years, but we will survive it. And you will be traveling again in a lot of safety. So I think it's kind of cool. But when I look back and see all the things that we're seeing now, one of the greatest things I'm doing right now is that every morning I get up, and I think it's really important to have a routine. I've worked out of my house for 40 something years, but I think it's really important to have a routine about you. And one of the things that I've been doing is watching these live TED interviews. And I don't know if you've ever watched TED Talks or anything like that in your life, but if you haven't, I'm going to send the link to the other two Cathys to send to you after the call, because one of the things that I have found about in this routine of watching, and it's not just about watching news, because I only limit myself to 40 minutes of news a day. I can't take any more than that about the COVID. And I think it's a healthy way to look at it, is that when I watch these TED Talks, there are things that are happening that are so incredibly optimistic. And some of the speakers that we've had, like Bill Gates and Elizabeth Gilbert and Gary Chu, all these incredible names, and I'll send you the links if you're interested, is that they're all talking about the fact that, yes, this is a deep financial cut, it's a deep cut to the entire world, but the fact is that we will all get out of this, and that we are, as a community of humans, very innovative. And things that are coming out right now, even after the last month that we've learned from China, is that there are a lot of things being created by a lot of very creative people. And this is forcing the world to change. And I think it will change in a much better way. There'll be new protocols that come into place when it comes to all sorts of industries. So I'm quite optimistic about it. As I say, it is kind of an unnerving situation for everybody to be at home, but it's also a really great time to have time to reflect. So the industry is healthy and strong, and it always will be. It's just a matter of this time blip that we have to get through.
So you're hopeful for the cruise industry?
Do you know, I'm not only hopeful for the cruise industry, but after 44 years of just working for really beautiful cruise lines, there's a lot of people saying, oh, are cruise ships going to be safe, and are they going to be okay, and everything like that? Yes, of course they are. Before 9/11, we walked through airports without any security. We walked onto airplanes with the pilot doors open. Yeah. We had kids going into the pilot's, cockpits. We went up on ships to the ship's bridges to watch, the world, as we sailed in. There were no real security measures back then, and 9/11 changed the world, and it changed it for, I think, the good. So people had to go through security, and now we're safe when we fly. So the same thing's going to happen with ships. And, interesting enough, when we talk about this crisis, out of all the hundreds, and I mean hundreds of ships, there's over 60 cruise lines and, over 300 ships out there sailing around. They may be parked now. Only 4 have had a situation with COVID. And, so the records of ships are amazingly safe and amazingly clean, but there will be new protocols that come into place because of it. And I already know that there are lots of things happening in our cruise industry to make the safety of our guests, even better than before. So I feel really chuffed about where the business is going. And also, I think, Kath, when you asked that question, I think one of the great things is that 2021, let me back up for a sec. 2020, we've seen a lot of people cancel. As you guys all know, all of us as guests, we're kind of afraid to travel. We can't travel right now. We can't cross the border unless it's essential travel. But in 2020, when all of these ships, all of the tour operators, all of these countries closed their borders and all kind of stuff, the world kind of did come to a stop. But I think what happened is, we got cancellations, but over that, people didn't really, let's say if we had 100% of a ship that canceled, that we had, 20% of our business canceled and wanted a refund. The other 80% of our business has booked something into 21 and 22. So when you say, are you hopeful for cruise lines? I go, I am so hopeful, because 2020 started out, as you well know, even for your own agency, as one of the best, most record-breaking, great years for travel. It started out for the world being a great year for travel, for every single tour operator and cruise line out there. And then COVID hit, and all of a sudden the world kind of fell apart. But what's happened is, when you think about 80% of our guests who have said, well, I still want to go in 2021 and 22, they've just moved their sailing. They haven't canceled outright and said, I'm never going to cruise again, because that would be kind of, silly in many ways. And everyone has their own personal thing. But when you think about 21, as it was even before COVID in 2021, we were having a record year for next year and the following year. So travel keeps building and building. But now what's going to happen is, I feel really great about the future of cruising and the safety of it, because we're going to find new ways to do different things, and we're going to find ways to keep people really safe and, really still excited about it. And so I think while you might not be traveling right now, we're seeing really great sales for the end of 2020 right through 21 and 22. So yeah, I do feel really great about it. I'm excited about it.
And I'm really excited about that. For one, I want to keep traveling, and two, we want to keep the business going. So, Kath D, travel advisors. Are they, people still want to book on their own, which I think is fine in certain circumstances, but what do you think are the advantages?
I think that through this, it has shown, and I can give you countless, and I mean hours in the last 2 weeks, of stories of guests who have called and said their travel agent was their lifeline while they were stranded. There was one of my guests was going to board in Peru on March 15th with us, and we couldn't get into Peru, and nor could we get into Chile to disembark a whole ship. So we had to fly her home, and she hadn't bought her air through Oceania. But what was interesting, she had it booked through an advisor like yourself, who's been around for a long time and really experienced. She made one phone call and one email, and that guest was flown home. Now, I can't imagine, and I'm in my mid-60s, I can't imagine being stuck somewhere and having booked online and not be able to get through to somebody to say, help me. Yeah. And I think what's going to happen with travel agents, or as we now call them, advisors in the industry, is that people are going to wake up to the fact that how important a travel agent is to them. I have never seen people work as hard. I've seen people in my colleagues in the travel agencies who are laid off and still working for their guests to get them home. I think that they are so full of knowledge. They're so engaged. They're so concerned. and they just work. And I think that that is why, and even with me, I will always, no matter what happens, I will always buy travel insurance, and I will always buy anything I book with travel through a travel agency. And I'm not just saying that and sounding like a sales pitch for Departures Travel, everybody, but it is really important to know the things that we can do for you as your real travel psychologist. And I think you guys have done a marvelous job. I know from talking to both Cathy's and some of their colleagues at Departures, how hard they've worked for some of their guests. I mean, Cathy Larson, I know that you had an incident recently too.
Yeah, I had some clients that were on the other Holland America ship. They were on the Maasdam, which was a 30-day sailing from New Zealand. And the first couple of days were great, but then as COVID started to build, they were denied entry and disembarkation in the Cook Islands, and then it was French Polynesia, and then they were heading to Hawaii, and they were denied in Hilo, and then Honolulu, finally disembarking in San Diego. But it reminded me why I love what I do. Is my client, who's a good friend now, they've been clients for 10 years, and very savvy travelers, but she was, I was their lifeline. They had free internet on the ship, and she would email me, what's going on? Can you change? I think we're coming into Hilo. And then I would check with Holland America. Yes, you're going in there. Let me change your flight, and then change your flight again. And then, so along the way, it was sort of a hand holding, and it gave her a secure feeling. Just as they were coming into San Diego, I was getting calls from other people on the ship that she had given my number to, and asking for assistance. So it was, and when they finally landed in San Diego and they got on their flight, I think I was pushing that flight home. So, but they're home now, and they're quarantining, and they've got an adventure to talk about now.
Do you know, it's interesting. My son is an expedition guide for one of the big two expedition companies, and he took 4 days to get home from Argentina just last week. He's quarantined in a hotel down in downtown Vancouver here. And but he and this is where I love the relationship between a travel agency and a supplier. And he had his company was amazing, trying to get him home through the Canadian government and the I can never say it, repatriation flights. But I have to say that, I think Canada's done a fantastic job so far. I think that we've been really on the ball. And I think when I look at, you guys and the jobs you've done, as I say, it's just tireless hours that you've put in. And I think you guys, as all the guests listening, you've just got a really great agency here to work with. So I want to take my hat off to you guys, because I know how hard it is on everybody.
Well, thanks. And we've had a lot of support from the industry and people like you. So that's really great. I'm going to ask you a fun question, Kath.
Yeah.
Because,
I love fun questions.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the most interesting person of your travels?
My goodness. I'd love to hear it from all of you who yours is. Do you know, I think one of the most interesting people I ever met, I was in my maybe late 20s, early 30s. I was working for a little company called Royal Viking Line then. They don't exist anymore, but they were a beautiful little luxury line. And I won a prize with my company. And I don't know, I'd sold the most cruises or the least cruises. I don't know what it was now. I can't remember. I'm so old. But one of the things that I remember is I won a dinner with Omar Sharif. So if you're under the age of 35, you wouldn't have a clue who he is. But boy, was he gorgeous. So I won a dinner with the president of our company and Omar Sharif, and I sat for dinner with him. And he was the most delightful, wonderful man. And he was dating Barbara Streisand at the time. So that was kind of cool.
Oh my gosh.
I think he was interesting. Yeah. How about you? Who was the most interesting person you've met? You guys should all go online and in the chat and tell the two Cathys who you've met that are interesting.
I don't know. I've met a lot of interesting people being in the business, but I think the most memorable one was we took our son when he was about 15. We took him to Cuba because we wanted him to see what Cuba was like before the United States was coming in and it was going to be westernized. So we came prepared with a bunch of, we went through all of his old toys from when he was like 6 or 7, little Matchbox toys that you would have got for $1. And we took him, Mom, what are we doing with these? And I said, just never mind, just bring him along. So we went into Havana for the day and had a great tour. And we're walking around downtown Havana, which is so beautiful, and looking at all the artwork. And he saw this man sitting there, and he was sitting there. He didn't have a wheelchair, and he had his no legs. He had his legs amputated. He had a little boy with him. And so my son went up to him and said, would you like this car? And the little boy looked at him like with the biggest eyes. And it was just like he had given him a box of chocolate bars, or an Xbox for kids up here, how spoiled we are up here. And he was so excited, and he just ran, and he ran to his mom, who was selling art in the fair. And mom, look what I got. And it so stuck with my son as a 15-year-old boy that when he went back to school that year, he wrote an essay on this experience. And it was just so heartwarming. I'm like, this is why we travel.
Exactly. Yeah, we do. Do you know, one of the things I will tell you, I mean, when I did that talk at our travel show a while ago that you were mentioning at the beginning, Kath, I talked about one thing that has really hit home with me, and that is being calm. And as soon as I start to really think about, oh my God, I could be in my house for the next 4 weeks and not move out of it, or the next 12 weeks, it can be daunting. And one of the things I've really tried to keep, of interest is just every day going, this is so out of my control. But as soon as I surrender to it, to the fear of what's next, because I think we all have that right now. I have a lot of single friends and a lot of friends who are just saying, what do I do with myself? I've never worked from home, or I'm just here by myself and I don't know what to do. And, I see so many people having virtual cocktail parties and doing that. And I think we can overdo that too. But one of the things that I'm trying to do is just say, it is out of my control. I'm going to let go of, what's going to happen, because it will be okay. I promise that. I just know it. But some of the things that I look at in the industry right now are the leaders of our industry, the real leaders of who are running the cruise lines, the airlines, and everything. And I've been watching how they've been reacting over the last 3 weeks. And it has been incredibly hard on everybody. I mean, you all know just from watching the hell that Holland America has gone through trying to dock their ships in Florida. But the one thing I will tell you is each time I look at the heads of these companies, and I know a few of them after all these years, a number of them, everything they do is based on real logic and calm. And there was, in my talk, there was a slide, and you've all seen it, keep calm and carry on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know the history of that. That was in 1939, before the Blitz came in London. The British wanted to kind of calm everybody. And so they had a poster that said, keep calm and carry on. It was never used, actually, until 2000, when they discovered it in a library, one of the posters. And now it's our beloved comment on everything we do. We see it in stores and everything like that. But I think if you do anything, I would get a coffee cup. I'd get something with that saying on it. And wherever you are, just put it in front of your desk or whatever it is, because it's not that I know how to be calm, because I'm an anxious person to begin with. But I'll tell you what it does. It makes you focus on right now. And it makes you kind of go, where do I want to go next? Because I want to go to the Holy Land next, or I want to go on one of my Antarctic trips with my son. And I think one of the most important things is, and I'm not saying this as a sales pitch either, I am so not afraid to travel. I'm not afraid to walk 4 feet away from someone instead of 6 feet. I take this very seriously, but I'll tell you, having a routine and keeping yourself in check is something that is going to be really helpful for you. Is that when you look at the travel business, none of the companies, including Departures Travel, are run by people who don't know what they're doing. They all know kind of what they have to do next. And I have not seen anyone be kind of freaked out and, running around like a chicken with their head cut off, in a leadership position. So that when it comes to whether it's Oceania or Paul Gauguin or, Silver Sea Cruises or whatever it is that you happen to be, sailing on, you are in really great hands. And, there are many great stories. The news, the media only want to talk about the bad things that people have experienced on ships these days. But I can give you countless from all of the industry stories of people who were served so beautifully by their crew and their captains and safe and they had a wonderful time. And so I just want to give you that bit of encouragement is that, we're all going to be fine and we're all going to be traveling again. The industry through every crisis has always come back as the most resilient. You just wait 4 weeks after being in your house or, you were going to want to get out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you. Yeah.
So one of the things that we were going to chat a little bit about was some of the stay sane strategies we're all using. And one of the things that I've got coming up, which I'm really excited about, is Monday night we've hired a London chef. And there's actually a couple of people on the call that are, a few of us on the call too, that are doing this. And we're I know, it's a virtual cooking class. And we've got a fantastic menu. And they're actually arranging the food to be either picked up at location or dropped off at a central location. And so no contact, you pick up your stuff and we all get together, kind of just like what we're doing here. And we're going to cook off and see how everybody's cooking is turning out. So I'm really excited about that. I think we'll do a few of those.
That is really cool.
You referenced some of the wine nights. Definitely been doing that, having some nights where we just get onto a Zoom call, or you can do it on Facebook or whatever. And that's been really fun too. And then I've got a mastermind group doing the same thing. So just keeping really engaged. And
we have a
socially.
challenge, Kath. I mean, that's a really great thing. We have a challenge at Oceania that is, it's we're known for the, foodie cruise line. And that's who we are in life. I love, what we do on the ship. And so we call ourselves the cruise line for foodies. But I have to tell you that Jacques Pepin, who oversees our entire culinary, we've started this entire cook-off for guests. So you can go online and we are cooking and we want our guests to join in, people who have sailed with us before. So I'll also send Cathy's the link to that. It's fantastic. So if you want to cook, and even if you don't like cooking, they're not hard recipes, but they're really fun to do.
So should we give away a cookbook or?
Oh my God, if you have one, I have one, I can give it to you for sure.
So let's have everybody make a dish from Oceania.
Yeah, well,
one of the easy ones.
However you guys decide, you can do that in your follow-up email, but I'm happy to give you the cookbook that Jacques wrote for us, and it's really fun. Awesome. It's really fun to follow a cooking class, because I've been in many of them on our ships, and I've even in Vancouver here, and like what Cathy's doing with her London chef, but I love that kind of stuff, and it really is a great community thing, especially when you are in your kitchen and you're cooking with the chefs. It's kind of cool. So
yeah, it just feels kind of social. So I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So in wrapping up, I don't want to keep everybody on too long. We thought we'd keep this to just around a half an hour, but I will follow up with an email to everybody thanking you. We'll probably pick a random winner somehow, maybe just pull a name or something for the cookbook, which I can't win because I'm not allowed, but I've been wanting that cookbook for a while. And so I'll follow up with a link with the TED Talks, and also with
I'll send you that
to the Oceania Cook-Off, and a couple of other great little videos that we'll share with you. So just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us, and on our first yeah.
Well, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and showing your faith in travel to Departures Travel, everybody. You're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. We just have to get through the next 4 to 8 weeks. And but thank you so much. I'm so honored to be your first guest.
Yes, thank you, Cathy. You've always been one of our favorites, so we really appreciate you coming on with us. And we would love to have everybody I'll send you a follow-up email, but if you've got some ideas for speakers you'd like to see, this is going to change up all the time. Sometimes we'll have a destination. So next week we have Paul Gauguin, Vicky Lubick coming on board, and we're not really going to talk about the ship.
Ew, I hate her. No, I'm only kidding. She is fabulous.
Well, Cathy and I, and actually Colleen, all just got back from a trip to Tahiti, and of course Sandra's on the call with us, and Leif is on the call with us, which we're both there with us as well. And
fabulous. I've sailed on them too, and they're wonderful.
So wonderful. Talk about the little islands and show pictures, and it'll be really fun. So every week I'll shift up a little bit, but it's always going to be Thursdays. So if you've got anything you've been wanting to learn about in the world of travel, let us know, and we can figure it out. So thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
And, yeah, been great.
Ciao. Hang in there.